Hello, this is Becca from Willow Hill Designs, and welcome today. It's been a while since I've done a video, but with Easter, it's been very busy. I hope everyone had a wonderful Easter day. If you celebrate the resurrection of our Lord, we had a beautiful day. We had all of our kids here and our grandchildren. So that was beautiful. It rained here the day before, but on Sunday, the sun came out. It was just a beautiful, perfect day, especially for our Easter egg hunt, which is a tradition here. And I filled 72 little plastic Easter eggs with treats and goodies and money. And I made enough for all the kids to be able to get their little baskets and fill, hopefully get a good number of eggs each. There were 3 golden eggs that had a little bit more in those eggs. So everyone was looking for a golden egg. And just a lovely dinner. We had lots of delicious food, probably too much. I think next year we have to scale back a little bit. There was so much food we couldn't fit it on the table. Thank you for God's blessings, I should say. And we also celebrated 3 birthdays. We had my grandson Joey and my son-in-law Mike's and mine. So we had some delicious birthday cake and ice cream and just a nice day of being together. So it's been busy, very busy, and I'm still recovering from all of that. The logistics of it. It's a lot, but thank goodness my daughters and daughter-in-law really do help with everything. But today, anyway, I'm here to share my finish for the cup prompt for our Roxy's Journal of Stitchery project, Still Life. And I finished mine. I'll give you a little close-up here of my cup. I decided to do a cup of tea. I love tea and coffee. Tea probably is coffee is my favorite, but I thought it would be interesting to do this little cup of tea here because I thought it would be nice to have a tea bag coming out of the cup. So I had shown in my last video the cup and how I had just sketched out a little cup here, and I had shared that these were the fabrics that I used for my cup. I used the wrong side of this fabric, which has pine branches, but I just wanted something ivory to kind of go in here and not be too obtrusive, and I used the wrong side of that. And then I used this green green leaves just in the trim around the cup and the handle and the little base of the cup here. And I also had shown in my last video that I had some little Liberty squares of fabric, can't talk, and these were just 1 1/4 inch squares, so they finish at about 3/4 of an inch, and I just did a little patchwork here to set the cup on. And I also decided to put some lace under the cup to look kind of like a little trim, but mostly to set it apart from this little pad, this kind of little mug rug that the cup is sitting on. And I just did a little running stitch around the edge of this. It was a rectangle, and I turned the square edges under just to give it a little different shape and make it a little more interesting. And then here for the flower, I did some stitching. There's actually a fabric flower underneath this, and I just stitched over it with some floss with straight stitches, long and short, and just some different colors, pink and a deeper kind of a brick red, and some ivory French knots, and some little stripes in the flower. And this is a piece of number 5 pearl cotton that I used for the string for the tea bag. And this is a piece of, this is actually the selvage of a Jennifer Chavarini fabric that had roses on it, but I loved the colors in this selvage, and it did go with the rest of the picture here. I felt the colors that are in my still life. And Jennifer was meaningful because one of our twin girls is named Jennifer, and so I thought that was nice to include that. So that is all done, and then I just couldn't help but add this little, I think it's called a Matryoshka doll. This one happens to be inside of the larger doll. If you can see that, it looks like she's sitting in the bottom half of the larger doll. I did originally, oops, sorry, I bumped the camera. I did originally have the larger doll, and I just thought that she was a little bit too big for the picture here. So they did have a couple of different sizes of these dolls on this fabric. So I chose the smaller doll, and if you can see the difference in the coloring, this is how this little one started out. She started out black with this very bright little bandana, really, I guess, around her head, which I love her colors. I think she's very pretty, but I thought maybe that was a little bit too much in this picture, or didn't quite, maybe it was a little bit incongruous for this picture. So I got out my good old Derwent watercolor pencils. These are not the Inktense. These are the watercolor. I just bought a new white. I kept my old white here. I'll use this one up, but I use white a lot to blend when colors are not quite right. So I used my watercolor pencils on this little girl, and I just made her little bandana a much lighter color to kind of go with the color scheme in this picture. I brought down this orange quite a bit, and this black, I made it look like a blue, sort of a deep blue. And again, here I just sort of lightened a little bit. So it's really amazing. It's just amazing to me what you can do with these watercolor pencils. I love them. They really come in handy. I had used them a little tiny bit on the fruit here, on the intersection, or the cut section of the pear. And I also decided to add, I couldn't resist, again, I know we're nearing the end and we'll be embellishing, but I couldn't resist adding a little egg here and a little rosebud laying there, maybe fell from this bouquet. And I thought that this little egg belongs to these little birds here. Oops, again, I did it. I can zoom out a bit so that you can kind of get the picture, and I think maybe this is the male up here, and he's looking down at the female who's keeping an eye on this egg that maybe fell out of a little nest somewhere that they have. They flew into the house this spring, maybe a screen was open and somehow they got in, and so I thought it would be fun to put a little egg here. And again, this egg was very pale, kind of almost like this color. And I again brought out my Derwent watercolor pencils and just made it actually is kind of big for this little bird. I could have cut it down smaller, and it does look like a robin's egg and a little bit, but there are little birds that have these speckles. I'm not sure about a chickadee egg and what it looks like, but so that's what I did. I enhanced this a little bit with my watercolor pencils. I love to do that. It really does add to your picture in some way. Let me see if I can zoom out again. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Or zoom in, I should say. Can you tell I'm tired? I think Easter did me in. So in listening to Rachel, and I haven't had a chance to watch Sarah's video yet, but they did announce our new prompt, and our last prompt was, I think Rachel was doing a plate or you could choose what you would like. And I originally had thought I would like to put a little decorative box here, because I do use those in my house to decorate. I have different little boxes that have sentimental value, but it just didn't seem to look right here. So I decided on a book, and I drew this little, just this little sketch of a book. And the reason that I drew it was I wanted to check for the sizing and what would fit in this picture. And I thought maybe this was a good size to put on here. I feel kind of like I have these things in a row, but because my picture is small, it's maybe 17 inches by 21, 17 wide by 21 long. It's rather confined, and I'm sure everything is not to scale quite. This is a big mug, but I do have some big cups. So anyway, I decided on a book. I thought it would kind of go with the fact that there are other books in the picture, and then there's a cup of tea and some fruit. So maybe someone is having a cup of tea with some fruit and reading a good book. So that was my idea for my very last prompt here. So then what I did was I decided on this fabric for the pages that would be exposed here. So I just thought maybe that would look interesting, maybe kind of like lines in the pages. And I thought that I would use this color kind of in here. I guess this is an ombre fabric that goes from dark to light. And I guess I was kind of in this range, kind of here for my book cover. So that would go here for the cover. And then I chose this fabric. I wanted to choose a spine. In this fabric, it shows different books. Let's see if I can show you. There's different books in this fabric, and they show the spines of books on a bookshelf, and then sometimes a book is facing forward and you can see the cover of the book. So I decided to take a spine out of this fabric, and I wanted something that would match this. And I thought maybe because my book is on an angle, this little pattern is on an angle to kind of give that perspective of laying there on the table. And all of these are flat and facing you, facing this way. It would be hard to take a cover and put it on here with this angle. I felt it just wouldn't work, so I used the plain fabric for the background of the cover. And so that's the fabric and I think this is called Rarities. I can't remember. I did give this name to someone that had asked me. It's Robert Kaufman Fabrics. Let's see if it says on here. I don't see it, but I'm pretty sure it says Rarities on it. So this is an interesting fabric. There's really all sorts of beautiful images on it. I loved this bunny, and I love this one, Thumbelina, which I actually did choose that image, and I chose an Alice in Wonderland, and I'll show you what I'm thinking for those. So this was the pattern that I used to cut out the pages, and then the spine I took from that fabric, and then this was my pattern. Just this top portion here was my pattern for the cover of the book. And so here is my little book that I have put together. And this was a spine that I took from that fabric. I liked this color. I thought it kind of went nicely with everything in this color scheme of my still life. So I searched my fabric for a color that would go with this, that would kind of look like this cover belonged with this spine. And as you can see on my little paper pattern here, I made a little slit in here, and I'd like to put a bookmark hanging out of that book here and here. So this is all together. This has turned edges on all the pieces. So this book will set something, I don't know, I'll have to, I don't want these to all be in a row, so it may have to go up a little bit, not to look like it's all, sadly, that's just the way it kind of turned out, that they're kind of almost on the same plane, but I guess this table isn't that large. So my book will sit here, and I chose these two. I haven't decided yet what I would like to use for the cover of this book. This is one that I loved, and I think this is the caterpillar, and yeah, this is the caterpillar in there, and he's sitting there on his mushroom. I don't know if you can make that out, but I was thinking that I would take that and work out a way to fold it in such a way that I can put it on that cover and look like it belongs there. So it would be something like, well, let's see, that edge would have to come down more probably. I mean, I'll have to work that out. But it would be something like this, kind of on here, with this edge folded under. If you can picture that. Probably not easily, but if you can imagine that that would be the cover, or the picture on the cover, something like that. I'll work it out so that it, and I like these colors. Again, thinking of all of the other colors in the still life here, I'd like them to all kind of go with each other. So something like that. So that's one choice. I like that, and I think I'm leaning towards this one. I do like that. The other one that I loved was this one, Thumbelina. I think this is so pretty as well. And again, that one would have to be folded. I haven't gotten that far yet, but that one would have to be folded again on an angle to fit the cover. And these colors also look very pretty with the book cover. So that would go on there. If you can kind of get an idea. Again, I would scale this down and follow this angle and this angle for that cover to be on there. So what I think I'll do is maybe draw a rectangle with these same angles, and then I'll place it on the picture and see which one will work best. I think either one of these will work nicely with the colors. I think that's very interesting. I think that almost kind of speaks to this little girl here. And I do love this one as well, because I think it kind of speaks to the flowers here. So they're really both very pretty. And then I was thinking I would use one of these for the bookmark that I would like to come out. And I just need a piece for the top and a piece for the bottom. So this is the selvage edge of the fabric here. And so that I will leave just like that. But I think this edge, what I will do is just turn it under. I'll just turn that edge under. And so this book will either have a red bookmark coming out of the bottom and out of the top, kind of like this. Maybe something like that with red. And again, it'll probably depend on the picture that I choose. And I will cut this and have the other portion coming out here. And what I'll do here is just make a little slit with my craft knife in the fabric. I'll just make a little slit here for where the bookmark might be coming out. So I'll either do a red bookmark, or I was thinking this is very pretty too, this gold, and this gold kind of relates to the colors in this, if I chose that for the cover. And that does seem to go with some of the colors here. So maybe this might be an interesting bookmark, or maybe the red would be interesting with this one. Again, it'll probably depend on which one I choose, although I guess you could use either one really with either picture. Maybe the red would even work with this. Not as much, but bookmark doesn't have to match the cover of the book. So that is really all I have to do there. I'll put this here. And when I was making these patterns for these, I used my applique method, which I have shown in other videos, and I just traced off the spine to make sure that I was getting the right size spine for this book. And then I separately traced this piece off to use as a pattern for the cover, and the same thing with this. I just isolated this portion and use this as my pattern for the pages down here. So I will complete the book, and I'll try to put the book so that it looks like it's kind of on a different plane than the other pieces. I don't want them to look like they're all kind of dotted in a row here. That was something that I didn't quite plan on happening, but it did. I think when we're given prompts and you don't know what they are, you're not always quite sure where to place them. It's kind of a gamble, but that's the fun. That's the fun of the challenge too. I also have this little girl that was also on that fabric, on this fabric as well. And she was a little chubbier. I trimmed her down, and she was a deeper red. And again, I used my Derwent pencils to just bring her coloring down a bit so that she didn't look quite so out there. This is not something really with very bright popping colors. It's colorful, but not bright popping colors. So I didn't know if I should maybe tuck her there, you know, as a little something of interest, another little something to draw your eye. Or is it too much? I mean, it may be too much. I don't want it to look silly and overcrowded. I had thought of, just because I love them, I had thought of maybe putting her here. She's kind of behind the book. Maybe that's interesting. I don't know. Or maybe here. I don't know. Just a decision that I will probably have to make. And I guess as long as it pleases me, that's what's important. So I will finish this book. I'll do the cover. Can't wait to do that and add the bookmark. And then I will stitch it down, invisible, stitch it down. And she may appear on here. And the other thing that I have done, lastly, was this branch. Let's see if I can get this centered. The last thing that I did was this branch, and I had explained earlier that these were 3 waxed cords for beads that I just twisted together. And then I took some silk floss that I had, silk thread, and I just created some branches because I love that look over a window. One of my daughters does that as well in her house, and I love that look. So I just added these branches, and then I took a very, very pale blue silk. It's that classic vineyard silk, and I made some French knots on this. So who knows what kind of little branch this is. Some pretty little branch that was found in the woods and brought in and someone decided to hang it above the window there. So that was the last thing that I've done as far as stitching on this piece. Oh, and also invisible stitching these two little pieces right here. The little egg, the little bird's egg. Maybe it's not even this little bird's egg. Maybe it's another bird's egg, and they flew in and happened to see it and are wondering, why is that? Kind of looks like a robin's egg, doesn't it? Although robins don't have speckles on their eggs. But anyway, so this is where my little still life stands right now. And let me back out. We're just about done. And I absolutely love, oh, too much. I absolutely love that we are almost done, and this is nearly ready to hang. So very exciting. I think I may add a little bit of color to this butterfly with some stitches. I did like her originally kind of blending in, but I may add a little bit of color on her with some stitches. That was a thought. As far as any other embellishments, I don't know. I don't think I'll be adding anything else. I think it's pretty much done, other than adding a sleeve on the back to hang it of some sort. And I was going to back this with something, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to just leave this, leave my work showing, because truthfully, it's really not going to be seen, but it does tell an interesting story. It does kind of speak about the front and how it was done. So I think I will just leave that with nothing on the back, just as it is. So I will come back in. So my cup is finished, and my book is nearly finished. And if anyone has an opinion, oh, I could even put her in front of the book, couldn't I? It's interesting too. When you're decorating a table or a tablescape of some kind, it is interesting to see how just moving pieces around. I use old books, vintage books, as risers very often, or decorative boxes, and sometimes just elevating things to a different level when you're grouping items. It just makes such a difference in your presentation. So maybe she could even be in front of the book somehow. Isn't it funny? I definitely would love to get her in there. Maybe she'll be in there somewhere. I don't know. If you have an opinion, I'd love to hear it, because I truthfully don't know if it's too much. Am I just being crazy now at this point and adding for just the sake of adding, or or does she add something to the whole picture? I don't know. But anyway, and one other thing I'm thinking of doing is some dark stitching along this ridge. This is a darker color, and it's supposed to look like the front of the table that shows the dimension. If this was the top of your table, and the side that comes down, that face that comes down, the depth or the height of the table. I was thinking of just stitching maybe a darker gray here, just to sort of delineate that that's the edge of the table. Not sure. I'll just lay some thread on there and see what it looks like. But anyway, so that's it. And I'll just give you a close-up of my cup. My cup with the tea and my book. And I'll just say thank you for spending some time with me, and I'm wishing you many blessings. Bye for now.